This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guests only. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Welcome to Once Shattered, Picking Up the Pieces, a podcast devoted to changing the way eating disorders and mental illness are viewed in our society. With your hosts, Jack and Linda Mazur and Ellen Bennett. Today's guest is Tim Mattice. Tim Mattice is a father of three and husband to his wife, Trish. He's the owner and operator of TPM Tile and Marble, specializing in kitchen and bathroom tile installation. Tim is a 1980 graduate of East High School and also a Monroe Community College alumnus. An avid golfer and bowler, he recently acquired his motorcycle license and enjoys wind therapy whenever the weather allows. Tim is an avid member of AA and co-host of The Joe Bricado Show and Rock Voices with Tamara McDuff on Sundays.
Welcome, everyone, to Once Shattered, Picking Up the Pieces, made possible and inspired by two eating disorder nonprofits that could not be dearer to our hearts. The Emilee Connection, formed in memory of Jackson, my daughter, Emilee Mazur, and KMB for Answers, founded in memory of Katie Bennett, Ellen Bennett's daughter. There are two exceptional young women who lost their lives to anorexia. And now I'd like to welcome my husband, my best friend, my soulmate, Jack Mazur, and our dear friend and fellow mental health advocate and eating disorder advocate, Ms. Ellen Bennett.
Welcome, listeners. So glad to be back and have you with us today. This is going to be a great conversation today.
Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. We're back. We love to get together with you all. Remember, all the links for today's show are in the show notes.
Okay, I have a quote for today, and here it is. I have found that the process of discovering who I really am begins with knowing who I don't really want to be. And that's a Alcoholics Anonymous quote. So sometimes the universe guides us loudly. Jack and I were invited to be on Rock Voices, a local Rochester free radio show that airs on Sundays with Tamara McDuff, who is a wonderful advocate. Sadly, she lost her precious daughter to an opioid overdose. She was also a guest on the first season of this podcast. Her co-host for her radio show is Tim Mattice, and we met him for the first time just a few weeks ago. And halfway through that show, we knew we had to invite him to join us here. So he's just walked in the studio. Tim, welcome.
Well, hello. It's an honor to be here.
Welcome, Tim. Yeah, there are no coincidences.
Oh, there are not.
You know, the fact that we were invited to do that show and you were the co-host, is...
Everybody, you'll see why very soon.
I hope I can live up to the...
No pressure.
Welcome, Tim.
Hi, Ellen. How are you?
Instant connection. As soon as we were introduced, it was like, yes, this is going to be an awesome conversation. So, woohoo, let's go.
All right.
Jack, ready to roll?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah. So, a couple weeks ago when we met you and when you shared some of your story with Linda and I on Rock Voices radio show, we were just so impressed. I mean, we just sat there, and just looked at each other and said, we have to have this man on. And your openness and your willingness to help others and share your story is a testament to the person you are. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
can you share a little bit about your radio co-hosting jobs and some of your personal story and ultimately why you attended that first AA meeting?
Well, the first part here with doing the co-host stuff is a product of just meeting people, getting out of the shell, willingness to just try to go out and do something different. I guess what I had been doing earlier in my life just, wasn't working. And just through circumstances, I got the chance to meet Joe Bricado. Over the years, we became friends. We had what was called the living room sessions. As we became friends, I'd just go over there and we would just talk and we would just laugh all the time. And he'd say, we should do a podcast of our conversations or just a radio show or something. And some way, somehow, we met Tamara. She came to a couple of his shows. And she says, you guys would be great on the radio. And, one thing led to another, and it snowballed. And the Joe Bricado show is kind of like a little freewheeling, I call it thoughtful chaos, that we get together and just have some fun in the studio, just talk about stuff. And tomorrow's show, Rock Voices, on Sundays from 3 to 5. I kind of wedged my way in there. I really like talking about substantial issues, and she has the forum, and she really enjoys having somebody to bounce stuff off of. And she's a lot of fun to be with, and our show is done pretty well. She has a listener in the UK who texted her and says, you got to keep this guy on, because it's really helping out the show. Just bringing in different energy. She was doing it alone, and I can't imagine do 2 hours all by yourself. Yeah. Every once in a while you have a guest here and there, but it's tough, because if you're doing an interviews, and more as I'm learning this craft, you have to listen and talk almost at the same time to follow up on something, because you could have a script and everything could be running well off of the script, but then somebody throws you what I call the snowball. You don't know it's coming, but you got to respond. You got to go off. And I think that's the trick in this. And when it comes to how I got to all this, was because of my foray into AA that 23 years ago, changed my life and gave me the courage to break out of my shell and do what I wouldn't have done normally. Yeah. And it's been a crazy ride. It's been great.
Yeah. That's so inspirational.
Yeah, and it's nice that new studio that Tamara's in is open. I remember going on her show in the past, and she had she was behind a window, and we were out in another room. Ellen, you've done her show, right?
Yeah. New studio is awesome.
So the new one is more like this, where you can see each other and open it.
More conducive to a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, facial expressions mean a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm finding. I mean, behind the microphone and listening on a radio or on on your devices, you don't know if the people listening or people conducting the interviews are yawning, or going through their notes or anything like that.
Don't tell my secrets.
I'm not looking at you, Jack.
I was up early with the dogs today. So.
But it's been a great ride so far. And, the AA is like the greatest show on earth. I can't imagine my life without it at this point.
So it was 23 years ago?
23 years ago, yeah. I came in the rooms in 2001. It started with my wife kind of giving me the ultimatum to clean up my act. In AA, there's a saying: you come into AA through the 3 L's: the liver, the lover, the lawyer. And in my case, it was my wife, the lover. So she urged me to continue my education at the University of Park Ridge, where I did some outpatient 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. A verification in a Dixie cup, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And, my thought at that time was, all right, I'll fool them for 6 weeks. It's a 6-week program, yada, yada. And I'll just, I'll go back to the way I wanted to do things. And I didn't think I had a problem. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I know that Ellen has a question for you, and I know that this story is just going to unfold like a beautiful flower. So, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have so much to comment about. I love this, because talking with you right now, saying that you had to break out of your shell, I'm like, what shell? You are like instant magic. And the other thing that you mentioned, that Tamara's show talks about substantial issues. And I'm like, yeah. We all have to start talking about some substantial issues, things with meaning and what's important. And then the last thing, the connection is I was married to a man who was an alcoholic, who did not choose me over the alcohol. Mm-hmm. So, and that's okay, because that was my path. But when you said it was your wife that motivated you, and I loved how you were so honest about saying, yeah, I was going to fool him. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. That mentality at the beginning. Now, I don't have a problem. What's wrong with you people? So I love it. I'm going to ask you, keep going, ask you a question about AA. We know one size doesn't fit all, but for a lot of people, AA is the key that really gives them that start point. And it's one of the most successful models out there. There is no cost. I mean, if on our side of the bench where we're talking about recovery for other things, the cost is exponential, and we're always having the conversation. God, if only we could break through and have something like AA. So why was AA a good fit for you? What was the connection?
Well, I think for me, going back to when I was younger, started where a lot of people in AA feel like they never fit in. That's a common theme I hear all the time. I felt like the square peg in the round hole, and people just seek out something to make them either fit in or feel more comfortable in their skin. And for me, I always just wanted to be part of a group, whether it was in sports, whether it was in school or something like that. And for the most part, I looked like I fit in. You know, I had the smile, and I had the gift of gab, but inside I felt like a clam that would only, open up when I felt like it. And I found that when I got into AA, after I kind of stopped comparing and started relating, I saw that you had a group of people with a common purpose, all heading for the same goal, which was feeling better about themselves, being able to live life on life's terms. And so to me, it fit like a glove because, when I joined bowling leagues and baseball, it's all about community, all about coming together, all about being part of a group. And I like the group dynamics. I don't mind being that little cog. I don't have to be the button pusher. I don't mind being a cog in the whole thing. So for me, it's a perfect fit. It's a real perfect fit.
Wow.
So I'm sure that everyone is waiting with bated breath to hear what the two words were. So the title of this episode, which I forgot to read, is 2 Words That Changed a Life with Tim Mattice. Yeah. Isn't that nice? It even rhymes.
That's beautiful.
But everybody will want to know, and Jack and I already know the answer to this, but these are great 2 words, and who would think that 2 words would be so powerful? So what were the 2 words that reshaped your thinking in your life? And can you share the words, where you were and who they came from?
I was in Park Ridge. I was doing outpatient 3 days a week. And, once again, I get in with the lowest members of the lowest people, the ones that were all going to fool everybody, but this wasn't going to work for us. And so in there, they had a group from AA, New Door, a group called New Door, and they're from Aldersgate Church in Greece. And about 3 people come in, and they tell their experience, strength, and hope, and I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. And one guy, his name is Bob, and Bob just started talking about all kinds of woes, all kinds of consequences he had, jails, institutions, car crashes, lawyers, all kinds of stuff. And now, none of that had happened to me. All I had was a pissed off wife. And at that point, my consequences were about that far. And
you were working, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was a very functioning alcoholic. I like to say that a lot of my best work was done throughout that, but it was in spite of that, Thank God I had a gift for what I do. So I'm listening to Bob talk, and afterwards, after he told his story and everything, the group broke up, and, you can go and get numbers, and they're getting phone numbers, and I felt so confident and cocky, and I went up to him, and I says, thank God you told your story, because now that just confirms that I can't possibly be an alcoholic because I didn't do any of the things that you did. And he goes, not yet. Oh. And I go, whoa. And just literally the light bulb went off in my head. And it was almost like a literal explosion. Not yet. And then I thought about it, and I go, all the times I drove under the influence, all the times that I spent money that I shouldn't have, all the times that I minimized my behaviors was all in those 2 words, not yet, because the consequences were just around the corner if I continued to do what I was doing. I was basically a 17-year-old in a 39-year-old body. And I just thought at that moment, that was enough. That was the start. And a couple minutes later, I asked him to be my sponsor. Oh. And so that's what he, and from there on, my life started getting better.
Wow. That's just so powerful. It really is. And,
it was just 2 words.
Yeah. And I hope somebody out there listening, hears those 2 words, not yet.
Yeah. And you were ready to receive that message.
But I didn't know that.
But no, you didn't. You didn't. But somehow that resonated with you and was like, holy shit.
They talk about the spiritual moment in AA. People talk about seeing a light or seeing something, or they get on their knees and they ask God to help them for that one moment, and suddenly it's lifted, and they talk about the age of miracles, and they happen every day. You just got to find them. It's not a burning bush. It's 2 words.
Right. Yeah. And God was with you those other times when you were driving. And
absolutely.
So I go back to think of college days and stuff, and by the grace of God, here am I today. So,
we all think we're going to live forever, don't we? We're all indestructible.
Absolutely.
Not so much anymore.
It's 70, I think. Oh my gosh, how many years?
Jack's way older than me.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. So that Bob was there that day and you were there. That there was no coincidence in that either, right? No. But I'm sure that led you to that huge commitment to be a sponsor for somebody else new to AA. And can you share more about that and what that's done for you?
Absolutely. In AA, they suggest that you have at least 1 year and had done the steps in order to properly sponsor somebody. So it took me a while to get through those steps. I could do 1, 2, 3 real easy. 4 and 5 is when you really, you really have to do the work. And I wasn't ready yet, even though I was doing all the stuff, all the suggestions my sponsor was giving me. But finally, when I pushed through and I accomplished that, and I had been, in the rooms for about maybe 3 years. And myself and another person started going down to West Avenue to pick up people from Salvation Army on a Sunday. Now, at New Door, Sunday mornings, our meeting started at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Now, imagine this. It's February. It's cold. And we're picking up 15 guys. So, and 15 guys, and then the week after, there was 13 guys. The week after that, there was 9, yada, yada. We get down to 1 guy. His name was Joseph. And Joseph came from Liberia. Okay, so he doesn't look like any of us in Greece, if you know what I'm saying. And he had a story that was just devastating. He came to this country hoping to bring his wife and children over, got a job as a cabbie in Newark, New Jersey. And in order to make any money, you have to stay basically awake 20 hours a day. And he barely knew the language, and he has an accent that you can cut with a knife. And he was one of those gentlemen from West Ave that we picked up. And he was this, I call it the sole survivor. And at that point was living on a cot in Salvation Army. So one day he stands up and he says, I need a sponsor. And I'm looking around at all these people who've got all these multiple years, and suddenly they're so fascinated with their fingernails. And I was really disappointed. And I look around and I says, well, and then suddenly something says to me, Tim, you step up. This is your time. And so I says, Joseph, right here. And I started working with that guy. Now, from Liberia to the United States to a cot on Salvation Army to where he eventually ended up was at St. Joe's on South Avenue, homeless shelter there. And I started working with him and found out this guy wanted it more than I did. He had really been through the ringer. What did I have? I had my own business. I had 2 cars. I was literally that guy 2 cars in the driveway, hadn't lost
house
everything.
in the suburbs.
Exactly, the whole 9 yards. And yet we're occupying the same chairs. So it's like I'm not comparing anymore. I'm relating. This is my journey. This is his. So he literally starts from nothing. And I said to him, I says, if you just, follow my lead, follow my suggestions, I'm only going to give you what was given to me freely. And we'll see where it goes. And he lived in that homeless shelter for 13 years. Oh my gosh. And he was helping, because he was like the only sober person there. He helped the director. I met the director. His guy's name is Tom. We went out to lunches and dinners together. We worked together. We did these things. And then I told him, just, for that first month, you give me a call every night at 7 o'clock. Every night at 7 o'clock, he called me. And we just talked. We didn't even talk about program. We just talked. And, sometimes it's, he didn't know anybody in Rochester. He knew nobody because from Newark, they sent him to Syracuse. From Syracuse, they sent him to Rochester, New York. This guy hadn't seen snow, and we just started working together today. This guy, now he's got 21 years, full-time at Wegmans, owns his own house, and is planning a trip to go back to Africa to go and make amends to his former wife.
His wife that never was able to come here. Yeah.
No. He had too much, and she had decided to move on. It was, but it was all right. He was okay because at the time he was saying she needed to be away from the bad stuff that he had caused. It was time for her to move on with her life because you see what immigration's like today. Yeah. So imagine trying to bring him over legally with all the stuff that he had gone through. It wasn't going to be easy. So it was decided to move on. But he's doing great today. He's thriving. And I can't be more happy that worked out. But I could just remember that time. The courage it must have took to stand up in front of a room full of strangers, basically, and say, I really need help. I need someone to help me. Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad that our paths crossed. Once again, there are no coincidences in AA. And I'd like to say that a coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous.
That's great. I love that.
Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. Wow. The word that keeps circling through is the courage. The courage that you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And so anybody out there who's thinking they need, you can do it. You can do what you need to do.
And the courage you had when everybody else just kind of, slumped
but
down.
it was my time. It just, once again, those little, I call them little landmarks in my life. I could point to that and be really proud of that
Some
moment.
may say landmines.
Landmines or landmarks.
Yeah, you know.
Well, the landmines is like the day that my wife says, you either go to Park Ridge or I'm out of here with the kids. So that's a landmine.
Yeah. That's
Yep. But I turned that into a positive. I mean, I'm grateful she did that. I mean, there's times when, bad things happen for a reason, and you could either wallow in it or you can make something of it, Yeah.
I like that you can use it.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Yeah, I just use it.
Absolutely.
Because she only had love in her heart. I mean, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And the fact that she wasn't, hey, you do your thing, I'll do mine, and, whatever. Whatever is a wasted word, too. If she had said whatever, well, I don't know where I'd be. I would certainly wouldn't be doing this podcast at this moment.
Oh, my God, I love this conversation. Okay, now the mystery man to me, I'm going to be honest here, is Bill W. Mm-hmm. Who's Bill W., and can you run through the 12 steps?
All right, well, I'll do my best. Now, Bill W., he was an alcoholic. He was committed numerous times for his alcoholism back in the day in the 20s and stuff. Members of the Oxford group. Now, the Oxford group was the AA of its time, but they were mainly Christian-based. We can get you sober if you only embrace our version of Christianity.
And what year was that?
I was in the 20s. Yeah. And so when Bill W. was going through his worst of his worst, he had been a stockbroker. He'd lost everything in the stock market, and was institutionalized for his alcoholism many times. And there was a particular hospital that a Dr. Silkwood was a real big influence in bringing in people, because he was the one who developed the theory that it was an allergy of the body, and and partially mental illness as well. So, but at the time they had the Oxford group. That was basically it. So people would come in and try to help these guys, and it took him a few times until he finally got it. But it was only through working with another AA member, or just working with another alcoholic, that he felt like the only one who knows what I'm going through is another alcoholic. And the only way that I can convince another alcoholic is to show them that I've come through the other side. And he met Dr. Bob Smith, and this was in the 30s, and they started working together. So it's kind of a rough little Wikipedia version of that. And for me, with the 12 steps, one of the things that I loved about it was I'm always hearing new things. Now, I've been in AA for 23 years, so I'm always trying to catch a new phrase, a new attitude, something from some other group or something like that. But one of the things that really got me to kind of summarize what the 12 steps were was that we show up, we grow up, own up, and then we give up ourselves to this program. And to me, that made it so much easier. We show up, and that's in the first three. We admitted we were powerless, came to believe, and made a decision. That's showing up. The next few are we grow up. We start admitting to ourselves, to God, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Owning up is 8 and 9, where we make a list of all the peoples we harmed, and 9 we make amends to them all. And then to me, the give up is 11 and 12. We give up what we really freely want to do, and we give ourselves to this program and to others, and to give back. So to me, summarizing it in those 4 things makes it more palatable. And when I'm helping guys, I just show them those 4 things. Yeah. It says, don't worry about the 12 steps. People go, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. This one, okay, I'm an alcoholic. I said, look at the 12 steps as like a big steak dinner with potatoes, asparagus, a little roll. You are not going to eat that in one bite.
Yeah. You need to break it down and make it manageable and be like, okay. Yeah. Okay, show up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you got to chew.
So absolutely. Well, and then you have to swallow it, because you got to swallow this program whole.
Yeah. So when you showed up to that first meeting, were you quiet, or did you talk?
No. My first real meeting, because once again I was at Park Ridge, and they urged you at that time. They urged you to go to 3 meetings a week, and then fill out your little piece of paper that you have gone. And now I think they don't do that anymore. They don't, because AA is supposed to be so God-fearing, and they higher power and all this, that the state doesn't want to get that mixture. It's so whatever. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But what I will say is, at that time in 2001, they urged you to go to 3 meetings a week. And when I talked with my sponsor, Bob, he says, look, don't say anything. I don't want you saying anything. Just listen. Just listen. And so my first meetings, I don't think I spoke in a meeting to say anything till like about 6 or 7 months, because I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. I really didn't. I mean, I could talk about a personal thing that I'm going through or something like that, but I had nothing to give back. If you're going to give any speeches or feedback, what do you have? All you have is the chaos. You don't have anything about experience or strength or hope, because you haven't.
Well, you're still in the muck.
Yeah,
you're in the muck. You're in deep.
I'm learning. I can't teach a class if you haven't learned the curriculum.
Right.
So I was taking it as, all right, I'm going to absorb this. Because, like I said, I had that spiritual awakening. that, hey, not yet, give this a shot, because I had fooled myself for years. I knew the things, from the time I was like 16, 17. Things I was doing, I was like, all right, I'm a kid, we're having fun, but I'm certainly not going to do this when I graduate. And I'm certainly not going to do this when I get engaged. And I'm certainly not going to do this when I have kids. And I'm certainly going to do all those things. And that's what I did. So having that moment to say, okay, I'm really going to give this a shot. That was finally, I was able to take that shot. And, I decided to listen to my sponsor and his suggestions. And when I finally did speak up, it was in a first step meeting. They have meetings for people who are newly in, and they separate you from people who've gotten multiple years. Certain meetings, certain places have those meetings. And at New Door, it was on Saturday mornings. And so I used to go up the stairs at this place, and there'd be about 20 people, and some of them were old-timers. They like going to first step meetings because it kept them fresh, and they liked hearing the new stories and help. And others were like myself, just learning the curriculum, as I like to put it, and the vernacular, and when to talk and when not to. And when I finally did speak up, it was at the urging of my sponsor, who says, okay, you're ready now, because I had told him things that had proved to him that I was ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask if some of the old timers would come to those early meetings. And
Oh, yeah. Some of them, every Saturday they go. I mean, you get these guys that got 30 years, and I'm starting to get to be one of those. My hair's getting grayer. When I came in, I looked good, but
you still look good.
Yeah, but some of these old timers, they have to keep it fresh, because otherwise they get complacent. And there's nothing worse than having a head full of AA and a belly full of beer. That does not work. So for myself, it depends. I like going, because I'm there on Saturdays and Sundays all the time. I like to attend what I call like a freestyle meeting. I'll go to Spencerport on Monday nights, or a place like that, just to keep it fresh. But on Saturdays, depending upon who's going to run first step, how many newcomers are there. If there's like a lot of newcomers, I love to go up there then, because sometimes they try to talk, and some of them, it's like they break down in tears. They know that this is the last house on the block. And so it's good to hear those stories, and to keep it fresh, that there's the pain and the anxiety of coming in fresh.
I know Linda wants to move on. Can I just ask one question about age, the youngest age of somebody who's come in?
Oh, God, let me see. Well, I've heard stories of this one woman came in, and she was in her early 30s, and she says that she had like 15 years. So that meant she came in at 16. And, personally, I've seen people in their 19, 20 years old. I mean, they're usually not, if they're in that bad stage, it's usually not alcoholism these days. It's more the other harder stuff that the kids gravitate towards. But this one woman, she came in at 16, so God bless her, because that saved her life.
I had a neighbor whose son was 17, and this is a long time ago, and went in and continued to be so. It saved his life.
Yeah.
He was, like you, I can go this way or I can go that way. And that was very eye-opening for me, and at an interesting time. It would have been back in the 80s, early 90s. Wow.
Yeah.
And I have to add, I have a friend who in her mid-80s started going to AA because she knew, and but it changed her life. In her mid-80s, it changed her life.
Yeah.
She is so much, and she did it to make the rest of her years much more healthier. And it wasn't that she drank every night, and sometimes drank a little too much. And she said, no more. I can't do it. And AA got her through, and she felt uncomfortable, kind of like, I'm a lot older than most. That's not my path. I don't know. But she hung in there. and she found purpose and meaning and still goes.
That's awesome. There's never a bad time to improve your life, whether it's in AA or anything.
That is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I love that AA has so many great sayings, and one of them is the most important person at a meeting is the new person, right?
Yeah.
And I've also heard it said that I heard somebody say that they go to the meetings to remember where they came from and why they're there.
Yeah.
And that helps keep them on track to be able to help somebody else, but also just to be able to visually see someone in that same spot help to keep this person on track. So
a lot of people when they come in, they're full of fear. And we try to tell them that fear actually stands for false evidence appearing real. And so, like, that's one of those little gems that I've picked up.
It's a beautiful one, too. Okay, so we understand that alcohol and substance use issues, as well as eating disorders and other maladaptive behaviors, are coping mechanisms because people are hurting inside. They may have self-esteem issues, anxiety, trauma. Maybe they experience grief. These are all things that come to mind. I love that the 12 steps embrace the spiritual component, the higher power. And I love that you can believe in God or a higher power, right? It doesn't have to be, okay, it's my way or the highway. And I think that knowing something is bigger than you can do alone is huge. The peer support, there's nothing like people that understand. And I believe the anonymous part helps people walk through the doors or even connect online nowadays. And it has the bonus of being free. I would imagine living in recovery must seem like a miracle for some. What have you witnessed with the men you've worked with? And has your belief in God and higher power changed?
100%. I see the miracles in the rooms every day. I see the people coming in and they're full of fear. They're tearful. They're on the verge of losing everything, including their sanity. And if they've got the courage to ask for help within those first few days, and we freely pass out phone numbers with our names, without the last name, obviously. And if a person's calling, they've got a good chance of starting on the road to a miracle. I mean, some of them, it happens immediately. Some of them, they have to go through several people who help them. And then the God component, I think, really, or the higher power, could drive some people crazy because when they first come in, the first thing I just want to get everybody off my back. I just want to get, And so when I've talked to some guys, and they go, yeah, I get it. I got to stop drinking. I get it. I got to stop, acting like an idiot. I said, but I can't get the God part. I said, well, then don't look at it as God. Look at it as good, orderly direction.
Wow.
I like that one.
And so from that, I says, look, it's the God of your understanding. It could be whatever you want. Sometimes it's the group itself. I says, if you need the group as your higher power, use us. We've got the wisdom, we've got the knowledge, and it makes it a little bit more palatable. And I said, look, the steps are there in order for a reason. You step through those doors, you admit it, you're an alcoholic, you got 11 more to go. Yeah. You've already showed up, and that's great. And for myself, I can remember, I was an altar boy. I Roman Catholic, the whole 9 yards. I liked the church. I grew up in it. I understood the importance of faith and belief. I had seen people coming in. We did the weddings and the funerals and stuff, and I'm standing there with the cross and the candles and all that stuff. And I saw that it brought peace to a lot of people, to true believers and stuff like that. But as I got older, you kind of walk away from traditions and stuff like that, and you're going to make your own path. And, the God of my understanding was splitting the atom and science and all that, and you question things and you dig into philosophy and go to college and all that stuff. But I always had it in the back of my mind that I didn't, religion didn't walk away from me. I walked away from religion and spirituality. And so for me, when I came into the rooms and they talked about the God component, it didn't scare me. It didn't bother me. It's just like I had to find my way back to a God of my understanding. And so one of the things that I love to play golf. I'll give you this little analogy that helps me in my thoughts, was that I love to play golf, and because I'm a contractor, entrepreneur, I have my own business, there are some times where I've got a couple days in the middle of the week, I don't have the job's not ready, or, whatever. And so back in the day, a nice summer day, I'll go golfing. Now I'm going to go golfing by myself. Jack,
call me.
Yeah, absolutely. You and me, we'll go out. But in that time, what usually happened is a single, I got teamed up with 2 or 3 other people. And what do they want to do? The first thing they want to do, they want to buy a round. They're just being polite. They want to buy a round. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, did I have the courage to say no? To, and I'm freshly in, I'm, 6-8 weeks in, maybe a month. But at that time, I took my AA group and used it like a cloak around me. I saw the faces, and I don't want to disappoint them, and I certainly don't want to disappoint myself. So I felt like I had a cloak of, like my own little superpower, that I could say no without looking, a guy wants to buy, Heinekens, for crying out loud. He's buying Heinekens. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to concentrate on my game. I'm good. And you go, okay, great. You want Gatorade? And so I built up this big thing, like it was going to be a big thing. And it was the same thing when I was telling, my contemporaries, my friends and everything, dude, I'm not going to come around much anymore. I'm in AA now. And I thought that they'd be all like, oh, AA's for quitters. And I'm like, and I thought that there would be a big thing. And they're all like, hey, dude, we're happy for you. Yeah. Really. I was like, well, fantastic. There's verification. I'm on the right path.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
That's really
concept nice. That we're embracing that as a community is really refreshing. And to be able, and you see it more and more. And that's that embracing and that safe community that we need for everybody who struggles with anything.
With anything.
With anything.
There's no shame or stigma.
Yeah. It's like, it's okay, good, Yeah,
and then, these days, I understood back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, alcoholism at that time wasn't really well understood. It was a moral failing. So you had to be anonymous, because if your boss found out you were an alcoholic, even if you weren't doing bad on the job, they'd get rid of you. They didn't have the protections like they do today. But today, you hear these big stars and they go through rehabs and stuff like that, and everybody says, oh, the courage. Oh, what powerful message he has now. And they're just one of us.
Oh my God, I say that all the time. And it's great that more and more people are coming out.
Yeah.
Sports guys, and everything, big linebackers and everybody coming out.
Absolutely.
But I say, whether it's alcoholics or people with eating disorders, and, our daughters are just as important as
absolutely
the stars that are coming out today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and those stories need to be told, and there's more of them than there are of the stars.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The stars.
We filled the sky.
Yeah. People look up to stars, unfortunately. Just like in the skies and stuff like that. And I know personally some stars, like in the musical world. I personally know them that occupy the same chair I do. Mm-hmm. So they're no better, no worse. They're just people. We're all just people. We're all just stardust.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all just stardust, and we're all just floating through life best we can.
Yeah. So when we were at Rock Voices, we noticed the sweatshirt that you had on, and you said your children give you a new one every year.
Yes.
Which is wonderful. So they're obviously proud of you and your father and
Jack,
for your sobriety.
Can you read his shirt?
So his shirt says, Happy Soberversity. There was a camera in the line.
Soberversity.
Yeah.
Soberversity. And he gets a new one every year.
A reason to celebrate.
Yeah.
And the number on there is what?
22. So this year, is that from this year or last
This
year?
was last year's, and the reason I wore it last year's is because it says Soberversary. My daughter, I don't know if she came up with it or she read it somewhere, but I just loved it. And I think black and gold makes me look taller. So, but she gave me a new one this year that basically says the same thing, but it says 23 years. And but this was just wonderful. Every year on my anniversary, they would come in, my daughters, and they never really saw me going through anything. We had a very loving and a lot of fun house, but I was sliding. I knew it, and I was lying to them and to my wife and stuff like that. So it was time for me to come in. So they totally embrace me in AA. I mean, that's what they've known for 23 years now, and they're in their mid-30s, so they were young. They were 10, 11, 12 years old. And so on my first anniversary, they came in with 24 donuts, a full cake, balloons, cards. I mean, they went way over the top. And I almost felt embarrassed because a lot of people, they don't have that same family structure. And so I was like a little taken aback, and they were all so happy and everything. And I was worried that people were going to look bad at me, like I orchestrated this. And then I found so many people came up to me and they were like tears in their eyes. Geez, that's exactly how I want my family to see me. And so I'm like, okay, that's good. It's cathartic to you. And I'm certainly not asking them to do this. They do it on their own. And I'm just, they're the best.
Because they love you.
Yeah.
That's all about the love.
When did the sweatshirt start?
The sweatshirt started 3 years ago.
Okay.
My middle daughter Angela, she knows these guys in the mall who makes T-shirts and stuff. She got to be very good friends with them because she has a lot of shirts, and they're friends with her too. And it's one of those things. So now when the group knows that it's my anniversary, the old timers in there, they go, "Hey Tim, as long as you don't drink, you're gonna get a sweatshirt, in about 5 days." So yeah, I kind of look forward to it.
Are they all black and gold?
No, the other one was more of the 23 has a rainbow kind of motif. It looks like marble. I don't know. It's very similar to this. It has "Thine Own Self Be True" and all that stuff.
I love that.
Yeah. But this was one of my faves, and it's still warm because it's cold out today.
It is cold. Yeah.
Oh, must be me. There's a pause. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question about family support, and we've kind of heard a little bit about that, but I wanted to bring in the power of having a sponsor because that's so key and so important. And I think with all no matter what recovery you're working on, that concept of a sponsor, a mentor, a coach, somebody who's there is critical and essential. So if you would like to say anything about that, and then if we can bridge into your family support that obviously has been so powerful to you. And so if we can also learn a little bit more about national and local meetings and anything else that you want to share, and that structure of how do people access AA meetings?
Well, one of the ways here in Rochester, anyway, central office phone number is 585-232-6720. They're at 1100 Elmwood Avenue here in Rochester and Brighton. They're on the El Segal campus.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful resource. They in that building, it's called the Greenhouse Building. They have meetings, but that's where you get a lot of your literature. You get your coins and things like that. And every with Google these days, you just Google wherever you're at, AA meeting central office, and it'll pop right up. So thank God, there's times when technology really does work well.
Oh, the Zoom, access by Zoom is huge.
Zoom was huge when we had the Wuhan flu there, for COVID-19. For almost 2 years, we didn't have face-to-face meetings.
And did a lot of people show up?
On Zoom meetings
Yeah.
they did.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I personally could not get into it. I needed that embrace of facial, because on Zoom I was seeing people were walking around, or they just leave the screen entirely. They're listening. They're doing the dishes. I didn't feel it. So what I did was I had an outdoor meeting on my lawn.
Oh,
I had, come to Jesus meeting, I put it. Come to Jesus meeting at Tim's house. I have this huge lawn. I got all these chairs, and we got about 30 people, from my home group. I needed to see the people, kind of interact. And I says, look, bring a mask or we could stay away.
Messed up.
But most people were just stayed away. And I don't remember anybody in our group getting sick.
Yeah.
And so we had 2 lawn meetings. And I said, so it's very close to how Bill W. and Dr. Bob used to have the kitchen sessions. They'd have it in their living rooms. People would make coffee, and everybody brought, it was so funny because, man, we had like a used car lot. Everybody brought their nicest car and all shined up and waxed because they hadn't seen each other. Nobody had seen each other, so they wanted to put their best face forward. With sponsorship, get back to what you were talking about. Sponsorship is so important because when you come in, you don't know what you don't know. And if you think you're going to handle this on your own, I could tough it out, I could white knuckle it. It doesn't work. And a sponsor can't be a buddy, can't be your best friend, can't be somebody that you grew up with, because you need someone to challenge you. You need someone to tell you you are wrong and be able to say it with conviction. Because if you got a friend, a buddy, they minimize your shortcomings, and that will not work. Not if you really want it. They say AA is not for people who need it. It's for people who want it. And you got to want it. And I think a lot of these types of faith-based groups, or any group in a whole that's trying to help with mental health, whether it's alcohol or eating disorders and stuff like that, at some point the brain has to say, I would rather be living well than just
Existing.
Exactly, because you're not thriving.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, because our brains will tell us no, they'll minimize, and it's hard. At some point there has to be that aha moment. And so when it came for me, I challenged myself with going with this guy who I just told off. Says, "There's no, you're an alcoholic, not me. Thank you. Thanks for telling me." And that's the guy I went with, and he was brutal on me, but in a nice way. We ended up playing a lot of golf together. That was the one thing that we had together. Do we have time? Can I tell a quick story?
Sure.
Okay. So this is another moment. Now here I am. I'm probably 8 months in. And I'm doing all the suggestions, and I'm feeling really good. My wife's loving me. My kids come back. My dog is happy when I come in the room, the whole 9 yards. And I think, I got it going on. I got this handled, okay? And I feel good, emotionally, physically, everything. So we go to play golf, me and my sponsor. And he goes, and we go in, and he pays, and he goes outside. And I go in, and I'm paying. And then I notice there's a whole bunch of treats and donuts and stuff set up for a tournament I'm not part of. And after I paid, I just casually walked over, looked at that, grabbed the donut, walked outside. And so my sponsor says, "Where'd you get that donut?" I go, "Oh, dude, there's a whole bunch just sitting there on the table." I said, nobody will see you. Go ahead, go grab one. It's okay. He goes, "Dude, you're a thief. You stole that donut." Now, I'm looking at my sponsor. I've done everything he's asked me to do. He has been the one person that gets me, and now I'm livid. And I got to play golf with this guy. I got to, share a cart with him.
Next 4 hours,
For 4 hours. So for 4 holes, I don't say nothing. I'm livid. Look, I'm an alcoholic. I get that. I got problems, but thief? I'm no thief. And he notices that I am playing the worst golf of my life, like I had never touched a club in my life. And he, finally he starts laughing. He goes, "Tim, it's not the big things that'll get you back drinking. It's the little things." And I thought, fuck. I go, wow, he's got me again. That's why you need a sponsor who calls you on your excretion. Okay, because I needed to hear that. And he goes, "Tim, it's simple. All you got to do is change everything." And you know. And today I go bowling, and I need pencils like you wouldn't believe, because I'm a tile guy. I'm always marking something. And pencils have a way of walking away all on their own. They're never in my pocket. It's like I'm always doing the Macarena. I'm looking for a free pencil. And so at bowling, there's pencils all over the place, but I can't take it. It's a pencil. I cannot take it. I was at a meeting after that's my donut story. Everybody knows my donut story. And a woman from our group, she went to another home group, and I saw her, a few months later, and she says, Tim, I took your story with me because I was checking out cans of corn at Walmart. I bought 3. I get home, I look at the thing, I had only scanned 2. Mm-hmm. She sat there going, well, does Walmart need my $1.49? Nobody, I certainly didn't steal it. It was an oversight. She went back because she heard that story. That is validation that AA works.
Mm-hmm. I did that about a month ago. I bought a greeting card at Wegmans, and I put it in the back because I didn't want it to go in the bag. I was going to keep it. And then I got to the car, and there was that greeting card still in the cart, Mm-hmm. It was like, it was one of the cheap ones too, the dollar ones that Wegmans has,
So if you got this card,
Yeah. So I went back in and scanned it and paid for it. But
it's that honesty,
right?
Yeah, it's that honesty.
In the last spring, I went and got flowers, some of them at Wegmans, which I didn't plan on getting. So I got my groceries and everything, and I'm going back in the car, and I look underneath the cart, and oh my God, she never scanned any of the flowers.
Yeah.
And I went back in to the service desk, and I said, I don't want anybody to get in trouble or anything, but I didn't pay for these. And I felt so good.
Yeah.
It just felt so good.
It releases those positive endorphins like you just had an hour workout.
Yeah.
You've done right by yourself, and you showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a very quick
hour
podcast, that's for sure. We're out of time, but we've enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Tim, for joining us.
I appreciate you asking me. Thank you very much.
I knew this was going to be wonderful, and I'm just so glad we accepted Tamara's request to have us on our show, and that you were there.
There are no coincidences.
And now,
God's winking at us.
I know I have somebody new to play golf with, too.
Absolutely. So, We're exchanging numbers, I'm telling you right now.
Oh, my God. Tim, this has been amazing. And I think it's really important to kind of share these stories. So anybody who's even thinking or struggling or knows somebody, it might awaken them to there is another path. There is something you can do, and you can recover.
Yeah,
you can find support.
Yeah, AA isn't a handout; it's a handout.
Yeah.
It's a handout.
And everybody's journey is different, and it's a lifelong journey too.
Right.
Yeah.
And not one size fits all, but keep trying till you find the size. This has been great. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, Rock Fox Recording and Production, and sound engineer and producer Scott Fitzgerald for expertly producing our podcast, and so much more.
And please, listeners, help us continue the conversation. Please rate, review, and share, and subscribe to One Shattered Picking Up the Pieces on the podcast platform that you're listening to us on. And please tell your friends and your families about us.
Remember, Rockbox is the place to record your podcast, record your audiobook, or do a legacy cast for your loved ones. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everybody. Till next time.